Hand that I can't see a human with? Oh, there you are.
I was wondering, you have a really incredible range, and I was just wondering if you have any formal training and sort of how you develop your vocal.
Okay, two things with that. I had a great choir teacher in high school, and I was raised in an environment where it was basically boobs and AC/DC. That's what you're programmed to like as a dude back then. It's like AC/DC, I'm back in black. Check out my Trans Am, right? So any sort of show of emotions or like sensitivity is like, well, you must like the same sex that you are, right? So my choir teacher was great because he was very much like, just you can sing, and I was like Monty Python. I was like, I just want to sing, and it was like I loved musicals, and I loved Enya, and I loved all this stuff that was just not particularly like cool to like. So he was the guy that was like, you can do it, and so he inspired me and taught me how to sing with my diaphragm and whatever. And then the other thing was when I moved to LA to do the Steve Vai project, they said you need to go to a vocal coach, somebody who can really like show you how to do it. And we had finished the record, and I went to this guy in LA named Roger Love, who had taught like Heart and like all these things. Roger Love, yeah. And I went in and he listened to me sing, and he said, okay, you are not going to be able to sing in another year. The way that you sing is going to destroy your voice. And then I never saw him again, and it's been 30 years. So, and I think a lot of my vocal technique is really based on force of will. Because when I first started a band, I hated. I don't want to sing. Singing sucks. You know what I mean? It hurts. It's like your vibes out there for everybody to criticize. It's like sucks. But then every singer I met was a douche, and it was like I was just like, okay, I'll just sing for a while. And then before you know it, here I am, right? So my technique, I don't recommend, and that's basically the first day before a show I'll sing until it really hurts, you know what I mean, until you kind of taste blood, and then for the next week you're okay. Right? Sorry, Roger. Yeah, so let's do a couple more questions. At the end, if we want to, we can like take some photos or take.
Probably got time for maybe one more question, and then
Yay! All right, okay, go for it. This chair is hard on my bum. All right, who is that I... Oh, yes, sure.
How do you stop from this, like, you're saying you're an overthinker, I'm in the same boat. How do you stop from just, like, second-guessing yourself?
Meditation.
Just, like, when you're songwriting, just sort of saying, like, oh, I see what you're doing there, and then you're like, well, now it feels shitty.
Meditation. Honestly. And I say that as somebody who is such a novice at it. Like, I try and do it twice a day, and I'm not... Yeah, I guess I'm, middle class white Canadian male. You know, I mean, with kids and iPads, it's like there's a certain amount of reality that I got to fight in terms of that. But that was the one thing that I found that has allowed me to step away from some of that self-judgment and also judgment from others, right? But again, I'll reiterate, I do it, but I'm a novice at it. But I can't imagine that it wouldn't help most people. For sure. And then I think when it comes to being with people, I get super spiky with people. It sucks. Like, the worst is when I'm writing something and someone's like, I got an idea. And I'm like, oh yeah? Tell me about it. That sounds great. You know, and in my mind I'm just like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, right? And then what I found recently though is like, actually Keneally has been great for that, because his ideas were just really great. And at the first, he's like, I got an idea. And I'm like, great, tell me, that sounds great. Great, tell me. And as he's telling me, I'm like, yeah, great, interrupting him. But then I found that, it was good practice for me, because with him, and a lot of people I've worked with, but with him, because I was more open to it, I guess, whenever he had an idea, I was like, oh, you're telling me your idea because it's something that you think will contribute to it, as opposed to like, I really want to riff in this song. Therefore, I think we should take this thing that you do and do the thing that I want. You know what I mean? And I've had a lot of experience with that, so I can forgive myself for being that cautious with it. But I think with Empath, I was much more open to like listening, and he was great because he's so brilliant. And by the end of it, I was able to accept the ideas more, with a few caveats, unfortunately. But I still react to it really spiky. That's the only way I can explain it, right? Like someone says they have an idea and all of a sudden my whole vibe is just like, toing, you know? Tell me, great, I'd love to hear your fucking idea. That sounds awesome, you know? So I wouldn't beat yourself up too hard about that. I would just say that, meditation has been really good for me, but you know, that's, you know, however many, if you believe in the lifetime things, man, it's like I'm several million away from anything that's going to be known as like centered. Another couple questions, we're good. Oh, yes, sir.
You've always been someone who I found a lot of other music from, so like Old Lady Drivers.
So wicked.
He's a Young God, so I'm just
Wicked.
wondering, what are you currently listening to?
I listen to Spotify so much that my data plan is a mess. And every month my wife gives me so much shit. She's like, you went through 16 gigs, and I'll have it just while I'm driving, and it's stupid. It's like I've had to readjust my data plan like 4 times now because of my listening thing on Spotify, which sucks. So I tend to listen to music that's very different than what I do. I like electronic music. I like music without vocals. I like really chill stuff. I'm not too much into like really clever electronic stuff in a way, as much as I really love like John Hopkins or Kiasmos or any of these sort of bands that are like interesting and chill. I also find that it demands a lot of attention from me if I'm in the wrong frame of mind. So I listen to basically floaty ambient stuff, you know, and with no vocals. Like just because I'm enjoying this, because I think it's kitschy to put the phone up to the mic. I'll show you what I was listening to this morning here that I love. Yeah, this. It's just a suggestion on it, but it's like, I guess it's like, let's see, that's what I listen to all day. I got a little Bose speaker, and it plays all day, like this stuff. Because what it ends up being is just like watercolors in the background, and then you have a soundtrack to your day that also helps in terms of excessive thinking. You know, it's like, I have a hard time eating without that sort of stuff going. I mean, I can clearly eat when I'm, but I mean, my wife and son are always like, why do you always have to have music on? I'm like, well, I mean, you guys sound like a dump truck when you're eating, which is one thing, but it's like, well, at least the son does. But it's just, if I don't have something that is kind of like inconsequential and like floaty, it's like I focus on sounds, I focus on people, I focus on vibes, I focus on all sorts of things that are ultimately really like counteract. And I have a pair of headphones. It cost me $300, and if you guys have got $300 for your mental health, those Bose sound canceling headphones, I wear all day, every day. Like when I'm on the tube, when I'm in the plane, I wear them all day, and it's they get rid of that ambient sound, like the kid crying and the guy making a weird clicking sound when he breathes. Like all that stuff is like eliminated. So it was a $300 investment that I can't recommend enough. So one final question. Do you want one more final? All right. Oh, yes, sir.
Hi. So my friend recently bought your Fishman signature pickups. So they're really versatile. So I want to ask you about the process that went behind the making of the pickup.
Sure. Thank you. I'll give one statement prior to that, and that is. Now that I just had a psychological moment before I tell you that. And speaking of endorsements, because this is being live streamed, excuse me a second. Wow. And you told me too, didn't you, Freddie? Yeah, I did too. Oh my God. All right. I'm hearing a humming noise. That's going to bug me too. So. So I've got way too much gear, and I can't sell it, and it's worth too much just to trade into the local music store to get that new pedal that I like. So I kind of keep it, and then at some point I use it to barter with people. But the point with that is that I've got everything I need. Like I've got everything I need. I do not need any more gear. So anytime I've worked with a company on a product, it's because it fulfills a need for me that no product has had. So this guitar, for example, as cool as of a spaceship and everything as it is, it fulfilled a need for me that now when I was recording the record, I don't need any other guitar. The pickups that are in this guitar fulfill a need. As I said earlier, I tend to use a telly when I'm at home or when I'm just jamming because it's disconnected from my job, and I psychologically really like that. And with the Fluence thing, I talked to, so it was Ken Suzy, who's in Unearthed. And when we met at Ozfest, I was so fucked up and he was so fucked up. We just did not get along. Like, I was just like, I don't like this dude. And he was like, I don't like this dude. And now we're buddies and we work together. It's really cool. And so hey, Ken. And he called me up and he's like, Fluence is putting together this pickup. So I was like, well, I use the 81s and I'm happy with that. And he says, well, what about it don't you like? And I said, well, I'll tell you what I don't like. I can't do this clean sound that I'm doing right now with the 81s. It just doesn't work for me. So what we ended up doing was designing this Transcendence pickup, which is 2 voices. The way that the Fluence pickup works is it coil taps between 2 distinct voices that I had the opportunity to go to Boston with Fishman and voice. And I spent 6 months, I think, with Larry Fishman and Ken and their engineers going back. We did dozens and dozens of prototypes. And the idea was a pickup that I could do the same sort of idea that I have with, like, you know, whatever jamming guitar that I have on a guitar that also does crushing metal. And these pickups are the first ones that were able to actually have 2 distinct voices because they're not wound like a traditional pickup. They're actually layers of not PCP. What is it? Fucking rock! The PCB, isn't it part? It's, you know, the one, the other one. Yeah. So basically, it's layers of that, and so it's vertical windings, which allow us to basically program into it with consistency with each set 2 completely unique sounds. So on this guitar, I can go between, you know, this sort of thing with the real, you know, sort of touch sensitive, you know. But then when I go to the metal, it's oh god! Except usually I don't have to do it like this. Don't look at my balls. Right. Right. I do this live too. This is how I change patches. But then when I go to this, I just put it into the metal setting, and we're back to. Bonanza. So, did you get that show here?
Yeah.
Dun, 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 bonanza.
Yeah.
All right, didn't get the reactions I was looking for, but thank you. So yeah, it was the first time that I've had it, and it solved a really practical need for me, where I can use one guitar live to do everything that I need to do, right? And it's the same with this guitar. And it's funny because I've been offered like a surprising amount of signature amp models, but I've not taken it because I'm fine with the Axe effects. You know what I mean? So that sort of, in a sense, it's like if I don't need it, then I'm not going to do like a signature product. It doesn't make sense because, like the Ocean Machine, for example, that Moore pedal that I did was perfect for me because today I took, you know, the Helix and the Kemper, and I had to go through and make patches, and I'm like not completely satisfied with it, but it kind of gives a replication of what it is that I go for. So the Ocean Machine, I was like, I want that, so when I go to my parents' house at Christmas time, I can plug into their stereo with any guitar and get my effects sound. So it solved a very practical need for me, right? And yeah, they're really cool. The other thing I like about the Fishman pickups is that they're USB charged. So as they're active pickups, you know, between our lack of straws and the 6 batteries a year we'll save, that's the world sorted right there, man. You know? They're coming to take me away. My friends, I will say first off that doing these sorts of things is exceptionally awkward because I don't have a lot to offer people in terms of guitar technique. You know, Andy James is a buddy, and like, you know, Petrucci and Vi and all these crazy guitar players, and when they do it, they're like, you know, I hold my pick like this, and this is how I do my sweeps, and blah 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 blah. But for me, I can't state clearly enough that guitar for me is a tool. It's a means to an end, and I use it. My capacity for technique is only there so I can articulate whatever ideas come into my mind. I have no passion for the technical side of it in the way that I maybe did when I was 15. So doing these guitar clinics is really weird because, you know, I keep thinking like, should I show you a chord? Like, I don't know, man, here's like that tapping lick I learned from Van Halen or whatever when I was 15. It's like, it's not my trip. But the one thing that I would hope that these sorts of things can impart on people is the fact that there's a real practical use for analysis of not only your physical and emotional health, but also how it relates to others in terms of how that can be translated into something musically that other people relate to. Because ultimately, if you're not honest with yourself about what you do, and if you're not honest with what your intentions are, this is what I find more than anything else, the amount of people that are going to be able to relate to that is going to be less than I think I had realized. And I think a lot of times I go through my, you know, I ramble and I talk and I get nervous and I do this and I just blah, 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 and scatological humor as a defense and all this sort of stuff. But I think ultimately what I've found is that at the end of it, even these experiences of trying to be more open allow people hopefully to see that that's an option viably, like creatively. And so I hope that from these clinics, people can sort of see that, you know, it's okay just to be who you are. Fuck it. It doesn't matter. It's like, you know, look, man, I'm like 46-year-old bald guy with bad teeth playing prog metal. I mean, this is like, that's a gong show straight out of the gate, right? But ultimately, I think as long as you're coming at it from the point of view of like, well, that's who I fucking am, right? And it's like, people are like, well, I want to be this band, like this band, because they're wicked and brutal. So I'll buy that guitar, you know what I mean? And I'll look like that, and I'll have the same sort of font. It's like, what you're doing is you're sacrificing the thing that makes you unique. And there's going to be tons of people that don't give a fuck about what makes you unique. I get so many people just like, this guy's a banana, you know? But ultimately, it's like the people that love me, and I love them, and I love doing what I do, and I've got a ton of friends that support me, and I've got musicians in a lot of genres that help me. And I think that if you're a musician and you are trying to make something of your own music, I think the best place to look is not, you know, necessarily the technique for guitar, because you can find a million YouTube videos that can do better than I can. But I think it's really about getting to the root of what it is that is bothering you. And in the same way I discussed with like the idea of a sculpture, you take away like Michelangelo, you took everything away from the piece of brick that, or whatever it was, that wasn't David, and then David was left over, right? I think it's the same thing we need to do as artists, right? Just observe the thing about us that is causing us to be consistently running into the same obstacles, and then just analyze that and see if you can live with it. If you can, great, make that part of your music. And if you can't, then change it, right? But ultimately, you know, just be honest with yourself, be honest with your friends, don't be afraid to be who you are, and, you know, drink milk. No, I don't know. All right, my friends, thank you so much for coming. If anybody would like a photo or a signature, yeah, if you want to try this guitar too, please just don't drop it. And if you do, don't tell me. I'll put it over here.